My girlfriend stated, "Love can wait, but friendship can't. They'll be here after you." I packed my bags that night without another word. When she and her squad showed up at my new place days later, I, 28 male, am sitting here in a glass-walled office that I pay for with my own sweat, looking at a stack of legal papers that represent the absolute incineration of my former life. If you're reading this, you've probably heard the phrase bros before hoes, or some variation of it. Well, my ex-girlfriend, 26F, had her own version. The squad is eternal. She learned the hard way that eternity has a very specific expiration date when the bank and the law get involved. We were together for 4 years. For 3 of those years, I was a ghost. I worked 60 to 70 hours a week as a senior software consultant. I skipped vacations, I wore shoes until they had holes in the soles, and I cooked every meal at home. Why? Because I wanted to buy a house, not just an apartment, but a real home with a yard and a future. My girlfriend, on the other hand, treated her paycheck like it was a gift card that expired every Friday. She worked in marketing, made decent money, but at the end of every month, her savings account sat at a resounding $0. She spent it all on brunch, weekend trips to Vegas with the girls, and clothes she'd wear once for an Instagram photo and then bury in the closet. I didn't mind at first. I thought, okay, I'm the builder. She's the one who brings the life to the house. I finally pulled the trigger on a beautiful 4-bedroom place in a quiet suburb of Austin. I put down 20%, all from my own savings. The title was in my name. The mortgage was in my name. The utilities were in my name. She moved in and promised she'd help with the vibes and maybe some of the groceries. The red flags didn't just wave, they started slapping me in the face about 6 months in. Her squad, 3 women she's known since her sorority days, started treating my house like a clubhouse. They'd show up at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, drink my expensive bourbon, and leave half-eaten sushi on the granite counters I was still paying off. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. for a meeting and find a stranger asleep on my couch. When I complained, my girlfriend would just roll her eyes and say I was being uptight and that I didn't understand sisterhood. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. I had just landed a massive contract that required me to work from home for the next 3 months. I needed peace. I needed a professional environment. I walked into the kitchen to find my girlfriend and her 3 friends sitting there with wine glasses looking at floor plans. I asked what was going on. My girlfriend looked at me with this breezy, terrifying confidence and said, "Oh, the girls are having a rough time with their leases ending. I told them they're moving in for the summer. We're going to turn the 2 guest rooms into a dorm situation. It'll be like college again." I stood there, blinking. "No," I said, "that's not happening. I work here. I pay the mortgage. We talked about those rooms being my office and a guest space for my family." The room went silent. Her best friend, the leader of the group, looked at me like I was a bug on her windshield. My girlfriend stood up, walked over to me, and said the words that ended our relationship. "Look, I love you, but love can wait. Friendship can't. These girls have been here for me since I was 19. They'll be here long after you're gone if you keep acting like this. If you can't handle my sisters, maybe you're the one who doesn't fit in this house." I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just felt this cold, heavy realization that I was nothing more than a landlord she didn't have to pay. I looked at the 4 of them, turned around, and went into our bedroom. I grabbed my 2 largest suitcases. I packed my clothes, my passport, my birth certificate, and my work laptop. I didn't touch her stuff. I didn't even take the TV I bought. I walked out the front door at midnight. They were laughing in the kitchen, probably celebrating their win. I checked into a Marriott and called my brother, who happens to be a real estate attorney. "I'm out," I told him. "I want the house gone. I want the relationship gone. I want a clean slate." He told me exactly what to do. Since the house was mine and we had no formal lease agreement, she was technically a guest. However, in our state, after a certain period, she could claim tenant of sufferance status, which would make evicting her a 6-month nightmare. But I had a loophole. I had received a massive cash offer from a corporate relocation company a month prior. They wanted the house as a corporate rental for tech execs. I hadn't taken it because I wanted to live there with her. I called the agent at 7 a.m. "Is the offer still on the table for a 10-day close?" He said yes, but it has to be vacant. "I'll handle the vacancy," I replied. I signed the sales contract digitally by noon. Then I went to a property management firm and hired a professional crew. I also signed a lease for a high-security luxury condo in the city center, the kind with a doorman, 3 layers of keycard access, and a gated garage. I texted her, "I'm giving you the space you asked for. I'll be away for a few days to think." She replied, "Finally, don't come back until you have an apology and some extra keys for the girls." I didn't reply. I spent the next 48 hours moving my remaining furniture out while she was at work. I hired a specialized moving crew to do it in 4 hours. When she came home to a half-empty house, she called me screaming. I told her I was storing my stuff to make room for her friends. She actually thanked me. She thought I was being a good boy. 5 days later, the sale of the house was finalized. The corporate entity took ownership. They don't play. They sent a formal notice of termination of occupancy to the address, but since my girlfriend was busy living her best life, she probably threw it in the trash thinking it was junk mail from me. On the 8th day, I was settled into my new condo. I had changed my phone number and only given it to family. But she knew where I used to work, and she knew the general area I liked. She must have tracked my car or followed my Instagram, which I forgot to private, because suddenly my doorbell camera at the new condo started blowing up. I looked at my phone. It was her and the squad. They were standing in the hallway of my floor, surrounded by piles of pink suitcases, IKEA bags, and a literal floor lamp. They looked like they'd been through a war. I opened the door, but I left the heavy security chain on. The gap was only about 2 inches. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice flat. "What am I doing here?" she shrieked. Her face was blotchy from crying. "The locks were changed. A man in a suit told me I was trespassing. He said the house was sold to a company. Where is my stuff? Where are we supposed to go?" "I told you, I'm waiting. You said the squad would be there after I was gone. Well, I'm gone. I sold the house. You weren't on the title, you never paid a dime of the mortgage, and you told me I didn't fit in my own home, so I removed myself from the equation." "You can't just sell a house in a week," her best friend yelled, trying to shove her face into the gap of the door. "We gave up our apartments. We have nowhere to go. You're legally obligated to house her." "Actually," I said, "I'm not. I checked with my... You were guests. I gave you written notice via the text where I said I was giving you space, and the new owners provided the legal vacate notice. Any of your personal belongings that were left were moved to a climate-controlled storage unit. I've paid for 1 month. The key is in an envelope at the front desk of this building. After that month, it's on you." My ex-girlfriend started pounding on the door. "Let us in. It's 2 bedrooms, right? We can make it work. We're a family." "No," I said, "we're not. You made your choice. You chose them over the man who was building a life for you. Now they can build a life for you." I shut the door. I could hear them screaming in the hallway. They stayed there for 2 hours. They tried to get the doorman to give them a key. They tried to tell the building manager that I had kidnapped my ex's dog. I didn't. She took the dog, which I had paid for, but I let it go for the sake of peace. Eventually, the building's private security escorted them out. But that was just the beginning of the entitlement tour. The next day, I got a call from an unknown number. It was her mother. She started off by calling me a heartless monster and then immediately transitioned into asking for $50,000. "You've ruined her life," the mother said. "She has a breakup on her record now. No one will rent to her because of the incident at the house. You owe her a settlement for the years she invested in you." I laughed. I actually laughed. She invested? She spent $400 a month on Sephora while I paid the property taxes. If she wants a settlement, she can take me to court. She did, or she tried to. She filed a lawsuit for constructive fraud and breach of implied contract. Her argument was that by letting her move in, I had created a marital-like partnership, and that she was entitled to half the proceeds of the house sale. She also filed for a temporary restraining order claiming I was financially abusive and unstable, hoping the judge would grant her temporary residence in my new condo while the case was pending. This is where her entitlement met the buzzsaw of reality. My lawyer is the kind of guy who keeps a copy of the state statutes under his pillow. We showed up to the hearing for the restraining order with 3 years of bank statements. We showed that I had paid 100% of the down payment, 100% of the mortgage, and 95% of the household expenses. We also produced the security footage from my new condo showing her and her friends trying to kick my door down while screaming about getting their share. But the chef's kiss moment? I had a recording. In our state, it's a one-party consent law for recording conversations. Remember that night she told me, "Love can wait, but friendship can't"? I had been recording that conversation because the squad had been acting so crazy lately that I wanted proof of their behavior in case they broke something. In the recording, you can clearly hear her saying, "I don't care about this house, I just want my girls here. It's not your house, it's our playground." The judge looked at her, then at her 3 friends who were sitting in the gallery like a Greek chorus, and sighed. Not only did he deny the restraining order, but he also sanctioned her lawyer for filing a frivolous suit. He called her claims a gross distortion of domestic violence statutes designed to protect actual victims. She left the courtroom in tears, but I wasn't done. I filed a countersuit for defamation. She had posted all over social media that I was a financial predator and had stolen her inheritance, which never existed. I had screenshots of everything. I also filed a claim for the damage the squad did to the house before they were kicked out. Apparently, they'd hosted a farewell party the night before the new owners took over and trashed the place. The corporate owners sued me for the damages, and I passed that bill right along to her. The total bill for her summer of friendship came out to about $35,000 in legal fees, damages, and sanctions. She didn't have the money. Of course she didn't. Her squad evaporated. The leader, who had been so vocal about sisterhood, was the first to go. When she realized she might be named in the defamation suit for the comments she left on my ex's posts, she deleted her account and moved to a different city. The other 2 friends simply stopped answering my ex's calls once they realized there was no free house to live in. My ex had to move back in with her parents. Her mother, who had been so bold on the phone, had to take out a second mortgage to pay for my ex's legal blunders. I heard from a mutual friend that she tried to reach out to me one last time through a fake LinkedIn profile. She said, "I realized I made a mistake. The girls weren't who I thought they were. Can we just talk? I'm drowning." I didn't answer. I just sent a screenshot of that message to my lawyer. The final act of revenge was the most satisfying. Because of the judgment I won against her, I was able to get a whit of garnishment. She works in a corporate office, a pretty stable job. Now, every single month, 25% of her disposable income is automatically deducted from her paycheck and sent to my bank account. It will take about 4 years for her to pay me back in full. Every time I get that notification on my phone, deposit received, I think about that night in the kitchen. I think about her saying that love can wait, but friendship lasts longer. She was right in a way. The consequences of her friendships are going to be with her for a long, long time, while my love for her disappeared the second I saw who she really was. I'm currently sitting on my balcony, sipping a bourbon that costs more than her monthly car payment, looking at the Austin skyline. The house is gone, the girl is gone, and the squad is a memory. But my peace of mind? That's permanent. It's funny how people think they can play with your life and your hard work like it's a game. They think entitlement is a shield, but in the real world, it's a lightning rod. She thought she was the queen of her own little world, but she forgot that I was the one who built the castle. When I took the castle away, she realized she was just standing in the mud with 3 people who didn't even like her enough to help her pack. Now I spend my weekends doing whatever I want. No uninvited guests, no sushi on the counters, no squad drama. Just me, my work, and the occasional date with someone who actually knows how to read a bank statement and a room. The lesson here is simple. If someone tells you you're replaceable, believe them. And then make sure that when you leave, you take everything you built with you. Don't leave a single brick for them to stand on. People always ask me if I feel bad for her. They see her working 2 jobs, living in her childhood bedroom, and they think I'm being cruel. But they weren't there when she told me I didn't fit in the home I bought. They weren't there when she tried to use the law to kick me out of my own new life. Justice isn't about being nice, it's about balance. She tried to take my future, so the law is taking a bit of hers until the debt is paid. That's not cruelty, that's just math. And honestly, the math has never looked better. My savings are back up, my career is peaking, and I've learned the most valuable lesson of all. A man's home is his castle, but only if he's careful about who he lets through the gate. If you let in a Trojan horse, don't be surprised when the squad comes crawling out. Of it to burn the place down. Just make sure you're the one holding the insurance policy and the deed when the smoke clears. If you want to see more squads get served with a side of legal reality, make sure to subscribe. Unlike my ex's friends, I actually show up when it matters.